Okay, I think I remember what I was gonna say. This is like a part two follow up to the other video. Don't know how much space I have left to record. But the other thing that was really bugging me was relating to my sister calling me. I say bugging me in terms of like concerning me or worrying me because she's in the past had quote unquote suicidal tendencies, and I'd say 75 to 80% of the time it's just boiled down to cries for attention. And I don't mean that to be like dismissive or condescending. There was definitely that time in 2012 where she pulled a fake suicide attempt while my dad was overseas, and it basically caused me to flunk this very important physics class because I had an exam that week, and that just tanked my grade to the point where it was like I couldn't bounce back. And that class was like a prerequisite for several other classes, which ultimately led me to being held back by like another like 2, maybe 3 years, especially if you factor in the application cycle. You got to apply a year beforehand in order to transfer to the 4 year full-fledged university. Um, but it's something that's in the back of my mind, and actually more towards the front right now. But um, because there's that concern that, okay, like I said, no, I got other things to do. I can't talk right now, or I don't want to. I don't want to get involved with this, that, or the other. And then it's sort of deal where, well, what if that is the thing that pushes her over? And then if things do happen, then maybe I'll end up blaming myself, even though, in truth, having had enough experience with her past antics, the likelihood is that no, it's not. It's just that she wanted to let off her steam, or throw her emotions overboard, so to speak, and get that out of her system by talking to me. But it's just like, you know um that being the likelihood, like, no, I made the right decision not getting involved because I'm not getting recruited into somebody else's fight. But at the same time, it's that kind of concern on my mind that, okay, like, what if. And I remember way back in the day, this old friend of mine who, um yeah, it's kind of a sad story, the friendship we had. He was the guy who, he's not a bad guy. He's not a bad guy, not by any stretch of the imagination. He had my back plenty of times, but it's kind of one of those friendships where I got to a point where, when I figured I was going to be really going for this whole engineering degree and really taking this seriously, like, the friendship died essentially. Um, Eventually I kind of cut contact with him, but um, he had said to me at one point, like, like, what can you do? What can you do in a situation like this? Like, what are you gonna do? And um, like, so much of it really is like out of your hands. Um, you can you can always be there, jumping in your car, driving however long it takes to get there, to, like, okay, be there and you know give her the attention that she's craving, by making some sort of threat to end her own life, or claiming that she needs someone to talk to, or needs someone to go fight the good fight for her on her behalf against whoever she's having issues with. Um, but where does that leave you, and what does that really lead to? Does it really solve the problem? And what does it do to your life? And for several years, I was the um, crisis, support, crisis savior type guy. And ultimately, I saw that nothing really changed, or at least it didn't change until I was out of the picture, and they couldn't just depend on me to go and be the person to, I don't know, practically knock the door down and, take the pills out of her hand, or um, just almost like, and it's really messed up, but almost like scare the bejesus out of her, to the point that she would be like, okay, you know, he's obviously taking this seriously, and I can't be joking around about this, or jerking them around with threats of, I'm going to kill myself, because they're taking it seriously. And if they take it seriously, they're going to do all these other things. I know if I end up one more time, you know, at some sort of psychiatric facility because, my parents and my sibling, stopped me from, you know, trying to ingest these sleeping pills or whatever, and they had me, taken to this facility. um, 3 strikes you're out, 4 strikes you're out, whatever, and I'll be committed, sort of thing. Having to be that guy who is sort of scare that sense or that rationality, or you drive that rationality into her mind, so to speak, or be there to stop her if she was literally trying to. Yeah, it it uh it did have some effect at that point in time. But just like when I talked with my dad about, okay, they need to understand how we got here, what's the root cause, the bigger picture, all that kind of stuff. Like, it didn't have the effect of getting that big point across to her or to them in general. Like, okay, 75, 80, 90% of this is just a cry for attention, or maybe she is really dealing with a bunch of garbage, but this is not the solution. The solution isn't go and kill yourself. The solution is, work on yourself, work on your life, learn how to cope, learn how to stand up for, stuff like that. Stuff that, you know, obviously there are things that I'm still working on myself, but anybody who may have followed me for the last 4 years has seen that, okay, I have made significant progress. I have gone down that road of fixing up my life and becoming stronger, learning how to cope with life, etc., etc. And that's the path I wish that she would take. That path. Whether it comes down to health or weight issues or psychological or what have you. And I don't know how to really make that happen. you know. It seems like the only time that stuff has changed is when I just wasn't in the picture, which is kind of messed up. Like, back when I moved out for that final time, got established up here, was like, okay, that's when she made it a point to get her license back and to drive herself where she needed to go, because I wasn't there to be the taxi driver, or the errand runner or whatever term. Um, and again, this is something that's sitting on my mind right now, because it's sort of like I probably came off very flippant, but at the same time, it's sort of like all the other times, and I was like, oh yeah, tell me, yeah, let me know, blah blah blah. It was like, you know, not only did it mess with my head, but it didn't really solve anything, and it was just the same sort of cycle every. And once they know they can get you that way, then they just keep that sort of stuff up. And knowing that, having read Dangerous Personalities and all, and been exposed to all this terminology and such, like knowing that my mom, for instance, is very much, she has all these like telltale signs of BPD. My sister, I mean, it makes sense, that's our mother, therefore she also has all these telltale signs of either BPD or NPD. And it's not something they're necessarily aware of, but I see it. you know I have to take everything with a grain of salt, but at the same time, you get that sort of thought in your head of like, what if this is real? Kind of like when my dad initially was taken to the hospital, it's kind of like, what if this is the time? What if this is really gonna go all the way and he's not gonna bounce back? Um, but yeah, that's something that's bugging me right now. And at the same time, I gotta get up, get out of here, and go back to my room and carry on for the remainder of the night, and then go to bed and hope when I wake up, everything's just blown over and nothing has really happened, and I haven't jinxed anything either with my dad or with my sister. Because obviously that'd be the worst thing to happen in the world, or very very near to it. And it definitely made me feel really bad, because oh, this was the time. This is the time that the boy cried wolf, and the wolves were really there, so to speak. Even though the boy cried wolf so many darn times that you eventually got to the point where you just didn't care, because you thought they were lying again, that the boy was lying again. But and now I could probably go into commenting on it from a perspective of like Rollo Tomasi's works and so on and so forth. But needless to say, it's sort of like having to try to look at things from a very clear-minded perspective, rational, logical, not emotional, and understanding that so much of it is just about getting attention. Even if the attention would take the form of me actually, like, it's like, oh, she got hurt or something like that, and I'd have to go over and, help, see to some wound or so, that kind of attention, But it doesn't sound like that. I definitely, I talked to my dad and I brought that up, and he was like, oh, she just wanted to talk about, stuff or whatever. And I was just like, I can't be getting involved. I can't be getting involved in somebody else's fight and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So, anyways, I hope that all my concerns are unfounded and it's just another, sort of like, oh, yeah, this happened again. Okay, I was right, to be skeptical, et cetera, et cetera. I hope that's the case. But anyways, this is part 2 of that other video, and I'm going to finish up now. And with the few remaining hours of the night that I have, try to get things taken care of. So anyways, see you folks around. Thanks for watching. Bye.